Hey guys and girls, my name is Alan and welcome to today's video. As you can tell from the title, today's is going to be another sort of guide video for Fortnite Battle Royale. Now last week I did post a video about landing locations in general, so when you first jump off the bus, where you're going to go and my call outs for those locations. I will link that video on the screen now. I will also link it in the description below as well. Those are, as I said, generic landing locations before you jump off the bus. Today's video, as you can probably guess, is going to be about the specific locations that you've landed to. So you've jumped off the bus, let's say, and you go to Tilted Towers. This video is going to be about the call outs within Tilted Towers and then all the other POIs as well, points of interest. Right, so just like last week's video where I put all the images into one video so that you can just access them in one place, I've also uploaded these pictures individually to my blog, to my website, and basically from there you can just click on each picture by itself, zoom in and just take your time and look at it, whereas obviously in the video you have to pause it if you want to have a better look. So it's up to you how you want to check them out. Just like last week's video, I just want to say that there's no right or wrong answer to calling out a specific building. As long as everyone on the team knows what you're talking about, then that's the job done basically, that's the call out done, that's achieved. However, if there's a bit of discrepancy about what it could be because of maybe the way you described it, then that's where I think it's better to have like a unified version. Hence why I decided to put my location and of course building callouts into these two videos as I said. So in this video itself, there will be the top 12 locations, in my opinion, that we usually land at, me and my team and the pubs that I usually play with. If there is demand, I will do the other locations. However, I feel like some of those places are pretty small, so it's not really that hard to just say I'm over here with the stuff, or you know, enemies are over there, whatever, because they're not very big. Whereas obviously places like Tilted, Paradise, they're huge. So if you don't really know what you're talking about in terms of callouts, it's going to be kind of difficult to communicate with the rest of your team about what enemies are and where they're moving, etc. So yeah, as I said, if there is a demand, I will do the other smaller locations. But for now, as I said, I believe that these are the top 12 most busy landing locations, which is why I decided to do them first. Okay then, so without further ado, let's get started. So coming at spot number 1, obviously it's got to be Tilted Towers, probably one of the busiest locations on the Fortnite map at the moment. And there's a lot of places to learn, but a lot of these buildings have been around for a while now, so people have pretty defined names for them. There's just one or two buildings on the sides that people don't really call out that often, but I feel like they should be noted as well. So obviously they're all on the screen now. I'm not going to read them out to you because you can see them yourself. As I said, you can pause the video, or you can visit my website blog and you can see for yourself, obviously the images static on the screen. Now there is a second image for Tilted just because of the size of it, because there was a few things I wanted to mention but there wasn't really enough space on the first image. So as you can see, sewers, which is just underneath where the tree's at, and then you got restaurant, which is on the side, and then the bookshop, which is next to the restaurant, and then you got the ice cream truck, which isn't a massive call out because not a lot of people are going to be going through there, but they might cut through the alleyway behind, and so it's better to say like ice cream truck rather than, you know, one of the buildings, which could cause confusion. Moving on to Retail Row, this is another favourite, and again, a lot of people already have callouts for Retail Row, but I feel like some of the names of the buildings aren't very distinguished. Like they'll say shops in general, but which shop are we talking about? So you got fishing shop obviously at the top, you got empty shop in the middle, which may be filled up at some point in the future, and then you got bar. And then on the other side of Retail Row, you've got the buildings, the houses, and people call these all sorts of different things, and I've just tried to make it as simple as possible. So just call them what they are. Hopefully that helps with any confusion. Peasant Park, pretty standard one. I don't really need to cover it too much. What I would say is that whenever I play Peasant Park with new people, they all have different callouts with these houses, and I mean, I've just tried to keep it simple. If it's got a certain colour, I'm going to give it that colour as that house name. The only two ones that really stand out are Broken Tree House and Triple Story, which some people call modern, which is okay, but I mean, one person's modern might not necessarily be another person's modern, whereas you say triple, everyone knows what triple is, right? So triple in the corner, and then you've got Broken Tree House on the top. And then on the right hand side, you've got the house in the middle, which I'm not really too sure what to call it, but for now I've just called it Small House because I believe it is the smallest house within Peasant Park. Moving on to Paradise Palms, as you can see, another pretty big town. Not as busy as Tilted, but maybe just as big. So there's quite a few callouts to learn for this particular location as well. Once again though, a lot of the buildings have like designated titles, so you got hotel, you got bookshop, you got gun shop, dealership. These aren't listed, but it's fairly obvious what those buildings are, hence why I've just given them those names. The only things that are hard to really call out are the houses. I decided to call the top one 4 squares for obvious reasons because of those 4 squares leading up to the house itself, and then I figured because there were 3 other houses to the left, it would make sense for that one to be the 4th one, and then going counterclockwise you've got 3, 2 and 1, and then obviously the very first house you got caravan, because that's the only one I believe with a caravan parked in front. And then moving on to one of my favourite landing drops, and that is Fatal Fields. Battlefield has a lot of barns, that's the problem, and when people are calling out barns in general, it's very confusing, so I've tried to just narrow it down. There are some barns which aren't really that obvious in terms of how they look and stuff, so I've tried to reference them to go along with the things that are nearby. So obviously when you've got farmhouse, you can say, you know, the sheds at the front of the farmhouse, back of the farmhouse, you got the silo shed. Obviously things like Big Red Barn are pretty standard, so there's no confusion when it comes to that. Moving on to Greasy Grove. It's sort of one of those locations that I do land at, but not that often. And again, there's a few callouts on there which are fairly similar to some of the other locations that we've already seen. Similar to Peasant Park, I think the main confusion when it comes to landing in this location are the houses. Really, it's just the grey and the white house that people might get confused about. I think red brick is fairly standard, doghouse is fairly standard, and obviously all the other buildings have designated roles as well. With Burger, you've got several floors, so it might be worth just calling out which floor you're talking about, but other than that, it's fairly standard stuff. Going on to Fake Factories, one of my favourite landing locations. I call it Fake Factories if you didn't know, because originally there was a set of factories exactly the same where Dusty used to be, well, near to where Dusty warehouses used to be. That got took out by the meteor, but then they put in another carbon copy where this location is, hence why I decided to call it Fake Factories. Obviously those factories are no longer there now, but the name is stuck and we just keep using it anyway. You never know, they might add factories back into the map again, so the name will probably stick around for that point as well. Moving on to Risky Reels, again, not a very big location, but a few buildings, and people don't really call out these buildings correctly whenever I play, and it's kind of difficult. I mean, obviously it's not a very big area to cover, but when you're saying you're in the building and there's a couple of buildings around and people aren't really specific about which building it is, it's a little bit difficult to pinpoint what's going on, especially when sometimes for some random reason you just get like 3 or 4 squads just land there, and it's just mad. It can be a bit chaotic sometimes, which is why I decided to include that. Then moving on to Lazy Links. Lazy Links, again, not very big, but a lot of like buildings, a lot of places that enemies could hide. They're not very technical callouts, they're basically just describing the thing that is there. But again, some of the people I play with, some of the pubs I play with, they just don't really describe it very well. Like obviously a tennis court is a tennis court, and say that then, you know, a swimming pool is a swimming pool, say that. Car park is a car park. So it's, again, nothing major, but just stuff that people should really be learning rather than trying to describe in their own way, because they do have names. Then moving on to Salty Springs, not really a location that I land at a lot because it's sort of in the middle, and the loot, I don't know if you've seen any of my videos or my streams, but the loot that we get whenever we land there as a squad it's very hit and miss. Like a lot of the times we'll walk out there with not very good weapons, shields, and it's just kind of meh. But it's also in the middle of the map as well, which isn't great, because if you don't get a lot of loot and you're pinched, then you're kind of screwed at that point. Then one of my personal favorites, again, indoor football. And again, it's not a huge location, but there's a lot of corners, a lot of places that enemies could be hiding, and a lot of loot that you can find potentially from chests as well. So again, I thought it was important to share my callouts for the buildings in this particular location. And for those that play with me, obviously they already know that, but for those that may play with me in the future, now they have a handy reference as well. Right, so that will do it for today's video. As I said, this may be part 1 of part 2. I'm not too sure yet. If there is a demand for the smaller locations, I will cover them as well. However, with season 6 coming up, I think some of the smaller locations may change to something else, so I may do another video closer to that point. Of course, I'm only assuming that they're going to make changes to some of these smaller locations, but what with the changes to Tomato Town already, which is now Tomato Temple, they could eventually rework some of the other smaller locations as well, so it would make more sense to post a video after that point. Season 6 is not that far away, to be honest, about a month away now, so just over a month. That will more or less fly by, trust me. So yeah, maybe I'll do another video come season 6 if there's any major map changes. As I said at the start of the video, I posted a guide last week talking about landing locations after you jumped off the bus for the first time, so just generic callouts for certain sections of the map. I already linked that video earlier, so I won't link it again, but you can find it in the description below. The week before that, I didn't actually post a video to my channel, but I did write a guide on my blog website. I'll link that on the screen now, and basically that is my callouts for weapons and equipment in the Fortnite Battle Royale game mode. Now, a lot of those are, again, pretty standard stuff. I'm just calling the weapon what it is, but you'd be surprised people just don't know these weapons. Maybe they haven't played a lot of shooters in their time or whatever, but I thought it was, again, a good idea to just unify everything and just give my personal callouts, just so if you play with me in the future, again, you know what I'm talking about when it comes to these sort of things. But as I said, I'm not giving them any fancy names, I'm just calling them what they are, but some people just, I guess, don't realize that that's what they are that I'm talking about. I will also link that guide in the description below as well, so if you just want to click on that, you can check out my website directly. All the pictures, as I said, are static on the blog, so if you don't want to watch this video and pause it, you can just go to the website, click on the image, and then just take as much time as you want just to admire my handiwork. Not that I'm big-headed, but it did take me a bit of time to get this done. So yeah, if you enjoyed the content, do consider tapping the like button. I really do appreciate it. I was planning to do this right at the start of Season 5. We're now almost towards the end of Season 5. It's taken me that long to put together. Some of it's because of laziness, some of it's because of technical difficulties, stuff like that. But I've finally managed to get done. I'm really happy with the result. So yeah, I would really appreciate a like if you did enjoy the content. And if you're new to the channel and you like seeing this sort of stuff, then hit that subscribe button. Can't guarantee I'll be getting this stuff up every single week, but every now and then I do, make stuff like this. So if you're interested to see more in the future, then hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications to be alerted of new videos. And as always, if you got any thoughts you'd like to share me regarding anything I've talked about today, anything you've seen, do let me know in the comment section below. As I said, these callouts aren't set in stone. If there's one that's more used than what I'm currently using, I'll be more than happy to update it on my blog, website, and I'll also make changes as necessary to future videos as well. But yeah, that'll do it for today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, take care, and I will see you later.
And now it's hard to breathe.